Hello, I recently spent a month on Oahu and I thought that there was no better way to close out my time here than to share my top 10 things to do, visit, and eat while on Oahu. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's go into my favorite excursions. I did a couple. I would say if you're visiting Oahu during the winter, definitely see if you can go on a whale watching tour. These are especially popular over the winter time because humpback whales are actually migrating from Alaska to come and mate and breed and raise their young around Hawaii. So if you can, I would definitely get a whale watching tour. Even though they're not guaranteed sightings, you still have a pretty good chance. The second excursion or thing to do, I would say, is to take a surf lesson. Surfing is such a big part of Polynesian culture and Hawaiian culture, and if you're able, just try it just to see what all the hype is about. I recommend for a beginner to go take classes on the Waikiki side, so it's more of the touristy area, and there are a lot of beginner friendly waves as well as schools and things of the sort. If you're like, I am not gonna go surfing, that's not my jam, even just to go watch, I think it's really fun. You can go check out the North Shore, which is really well known for their bigger waves, and that would be an ideal spot to maybe grab an acai bowl and then go watch some pro surfers at work. The third excursion is to either go snorkeling or diving. I went diving on the North Shore. We were actually swimming with sharks, so we were swimming with the Galapagos sharks, and I would definitely recommend trying to find a company that is conservation focused and so not disturbing any of the animals while you're on your excursion. So we were actually just able just to go, and we saw a few. These are just normal swim patterns that the organization had tracked, and so we were able just to go and visit, and it was a phenomenal experience. I would highly recommend it. If sharks are not your thing, there are so many places just to go snorkeling. So if you're on the North Shore, there is Sharks Cove, which is really well known, and if you're more on the South Shore, then there is Hananua Bay, which is well known for having beautiful reefs as well as fishes and lots of other aquatic life. My fourth recommendation, so now we're getting a little bit more into the free or zero to no cost activities. I would say visit one of the botanical gardens. There are two that I visited. The first was the Coco Crater Botanical Garden, and the second was the Ho'omoluhia Botanical Garden, and I prefer Coco Crater. I found it to be a lot more of an experience where you could disconnect versus having there be a ton of different people, especially if you can get there during the morning. But I know that Ho'omoluhia is really popular and it's a little bit more centrally located, so depending where you are, I would definitely recommend checking out either of the botanical gardens. I was really impressed by the array of different regions that they are able to exhibit at the botanical garden, and I found it to be really beautiful, so definitely a highlight. Strongly recommend you go. If the botanical gardens are up your alley, then you're also probably going to be someone who loves to go for hikes. I went on quite a few hikes during my time here. So for the family-friendly hike, I would say Manoa Falls. That one was relatively easy. I think it was maybe a 2-mile in total loop, and there's a little waterfall at the end, and even just all the vegetation was really beautiful. I really thought that I was on the scene of Jurassic Park or any of those other jungle-based expedition movies. It was phenomenal. I had such a good time. And the second hike that I would recommend is either of the hikes that give you more of an aerial view of the island. So the two main ones that folks go to are Diamond Head or Coco Crater. Coco Crater if you're located more on the south side of Oahu. Diamond Head if you're in the Waikiki area. I went to Coco Crater and it was beautiful. I did it on my very first day. It is definitely a booty kicker. I think it took me maybe an hour and a half to go up and then a half hour on the way down because it's just a straight incline, just stairs all the way to the top. So it's definitely not for the faint of heart. Go in the morning if you can, bring lots of water, maybe a towel if you sweat a lot, and there are lots of different places to take breaks, so you don't have to, just go all the way up, but keep that in mind that it is a little bit more of a workout, but the views are well worth it. The third hike would be the Lanikai Pillbox Trail. I really thought that was really beautiful and not too busy, especially if you go in the morning, and there were spots where you could go to either of the pillboxes, which give a phenomenal view of Kailua, which is a neighborhood that the trail is located in, as well as just the beach and a few other rock formations that are nearby. But if you keep on continuing past the pillboxes, there are two, and you can even have a longer trek as well as a little bit more privacy. So if you have it in you, I would maybe go about an hour out and then an hour on the way back in. I would say the fourth is the Ku'uli'o'u. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but that was my favorite ridge hike. I had a ton of privacy, the vegetation was beautiful, the views are beautiful, and that was located in a residential area, so parking was a little bit difficult, totally well worth it. This hike I would say is a little bit more challenging, so maybe more in the intermediate area. It was five point something miles in total round trip, and there also was, you know, some elevation gain. I did meet some people who had to turn back, so a little bit more challenging. Keep that in mind. Definitely check out the trails website so you can get a little bit more of the background about what to expect. There's some areas a little bit more muddy, a little bit more rock climbing, but it was by far, I would say, if I'm ranking my favorites, it's definitely number one or number two. My fifth hike is the Hananuma Ridge hike. So this is a hike that it's on Google Maps, but there are lots of postage around saying that this is not a hike, it's not advisable because it's private property or private government property. But because it's located in a residential area, a lot of residents actually will go and walk along this ridge, and it's well maintained, paved, and so it's kind of the go but don't go, and the views are beautiful, especially if you can go in the sunrise before anyone is really outside. I would say that is one of my favorites. I did it multiple times throughout this month. You guys are probably wondering how we got already this far into the list and haven't mentioned any beaches yet, so let's dive into those. Again, as a disclaimer, I am someone who, if I'm recreating outside, I prefer to have a little bit more space. I don't want to have somebody on me, someone's music here, someone's child crying there. It's not the environment that I want when I'm going on hikes or to the beach in this case. And so with that in mind, I would say that my favorite beach is Waimanalo Beach, which is located in a really residential area, and you can tell because of the way that the beach is maintained, the respect that's given on the beach, and so that is my favorite. There are a host of other guides you can look at for beach recommendations, but the only one that I can really share that I had the best time at was my Waimanalo, versus I went to Kalama Beach, Lanikai Beach, and a few beaches on Waikiki, but again, nothing could compare to having some space and it's just me and the ocean. It's worth the drive, you know? Speaking of driving, I highly recommend that you have a rental car and that you actually just take time to drive along the island. So there's so many scenic points you can just stop over, pull off at, and just enjoy, especially because most of the highways are located around the island. So you have the beachside drive and you have the beautiful rock formations on the inside, maybe more towards where the city is. And so I found myself just like constantly getting a little distracted actually because of how beautiful everything was as I was driving. So not, you know, something to do, but just a little tidbit there. Number 7, let's dive into the food scene. So as a disclaimer, I'm a vegetarian, so I didn't really indulge in any of the poke or any of the fish or any of that because I don't eat those things. And so with that in mind, I would say my favorite Oahu or Hawaiian dishes were more of the dessert variety. So I loved a good acai bowl. My favorite was either at Tropical Tribe or the Sunrise Shack. Those are my 2 favorite acai bowls. The Sunrise Shack has multiple locations on the North Shore, Kailua, and a few in Waikiki as well. And then Tropical Tribe is the same. They have a few different locations. Also checked out Ted's Bakery, and I've tried a few of their pies. I would say the one that I enjoyed the most was the chocolate hopia. So that's the chocolate coconut, which is actually what they're well known for. And that was really enjoyable. And then I also went to a Malasada track. This is Leonard's Bakery. I think out of all of these, it probably was the most enjoyable to me. I was super impressed by how fresh the dough was and the filling, and I tried a few different flavors, and I'm definitely gonna go back before I head out. So if you're gonna be near Leonard's Bakery, definitely check them out. They're super accessible because they have their bakery, which is their storefront, but they also have some of these mobile trucks at a few different major shopping centers. So chances are there's Leonard's near you. In addition to those items, I'd also say just go to a farmer's market and just see what catches your eye. To the Kailua Town Farmer's Market and the KCC Farmer's Market, and both of those had multiple vendors that were selling lots of different tropical fruit, but also food as well. So just go see what catches your fancy and enjoy. So my 8th thing, must do on Oahu, is really try to catch the sunrise or sunset, you know, night owl, morning bird, whichever one that you are. It is the colors, the sky, the way that the birds wake up here, everything is so beautiful. So if you can pick a spot, there really is no bad spot. Sunset Beach if you're in the North Shore, or Hananuma Bay if you're on the South Shore, and enjoy, because I found myself really reconnecting with myself during those times, and it was a really special experience. Another thing that I would recommend that you do is just to visit a cultural center. There are a few different cultural centers and museums that I found to share a lot of information that was helpful if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about Hawaiian history. The first, which I find to be really family friendly, is the Polynesian Cultural Center. Lots of fun activities and interactions. It's not the most factual, it's not like a museum, but it's really interactive through games and demos and storytelling, and so that would be a good way just to dip your toe in the water. And you can take what you learn there and go to the Bishop Museum and actually see if you can dive a little deeper and apply some of that knowledge, or even use that to focus what you're exploring further at the Bishop Museum. So I would definitely recommend the Bishop Museum. I spent maybe 3 hours there just going through some of their archives and learning a little bit more about wayfinding, which I found to be the most intriguing, and I had a phenomenal time. So definitely visit a cultural center. It's going to allow you just to better connect with the land and the people here as well. Keeping that all in mind, the 10th thing that I would recommend, number 10, is to go to a conservation farm or conservation institute and just learn about different efforts that are going on around the island. Think ocean conservation or marine life conservation or land conservation. There's so many different habitats and there's so many different ecologies, and Hawaii is a really biodiverse space. So if that's something that intrigues you, see if you can get a little bit more engaged with it, volunteer, and see if you can give back while you're visiting this space. And so I actually went to Kualoa Farms and I was able to learn a little bit more about agriculture and farming practices on Hawaii, and obviously got some goodies so I could aid the economy, but also just because I wanted to. And I found it to be really informative. I went on one of their expedition tours and learned a little bit more about, again, their farming practices, the land, the history, and just overall felt like I was a part of something for a bit. So those are my 10 recommendations of things to do while on Oahu. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me and let me know. But otherwise, enjoy your time here. It's a really beautiful place. I don't think I have heard anyone speak negatively about Hawaii. I think it's somewhere where you can make your own individual experience and everyone's going to get something really beautiful and different out of it. So if you have any recommendations that are outside of these, feel free to drop those in the comments as well. But until next time, I will catch you guys soon. Besos.